After nearly 9 decades of unwavering service, the Duke of Kent appeared before the cameras, frail, solemn, and holding back visible emotion. But what he said next stunned the entire nation. Because in that quiet farewell, he didn't just announce his retirement, he passed on something far greater, a torch of legacy, duty, and trust, and he chose Princess Catherine to carry it forward. But why her? Why not his own family or even another senior royal closer to the throne? As the Duke's trembling voice echoed through the halls of Buckingham Palace, royal watchers realized this wasn't just an old man stepping down. It was a carefully measured act, one filled with symbolism, emotion, and a message meant to outlive him. But what he said next stunned the entire nation. Because in that quiet farewell, he didn't just announce his retirement, he passed on something far greater, a torch of legacy, duty, and trust, and he chose Princess Catherine to carry it forward. But why her? Why not his own family or even another senior royal closer to the throne? As the Duke's trembling voice echoed through the halls of Buckingham Palace, royal watchers realized this wasn't just an old man stepping down. It was a carefully measured act, one filled with symbolism, emotion, and a message meant to outlive him. But what he said next stunned the entire nation. Because in that quiet farewell, he didn't just announce his retirement, he passed on something far greater, a torch of legacy, duty, and trust, and he chose Princess Catherine to carry it forward. But why her? Why not his own family or even another senior royal closer to the throne? As the Duke's trembling voice echoed through the halls of Buckingham Palace, royal watchers realized this wasn't just an old man stepping down. It was a carefully measured act, one filled with symbolism, emotion, and a message meant to outlive him. And as the nation looked closer, they began to wonder, was this the Duke's final bow, or the beginning of a quiet royal handover that no one saw coming? When the Duke of Kent stood at Windsor to deliver his final public message, few expected the moment to feel so deeply personal. His voice, once commanding and crisp, now trembled with age. Yet every word carried the weight of history. He spoke of service, of loyalty, of a life spent in quiet duty behind the scenes, often overshadowed by the crown, but never forgotten by it. And then, with a pause that seemed to last forever, he revealed his final act, stepping down from royal duties after more than 80 years of commitment. But it wasn't the retirement itself that captured hearts. It was who he mentioned next. The Duke praised Princess Catherine, describing her as the embodiment of the modern royal spirit, a woman who, despite her struggles and health battles, continues to serve with grace and silence. His words were gentle, but they carried unmistakable meaning. Royal watchers knew exactly what he was doing. This wasn't just an emotional goodbye. It was a passing of the torch, a public show of support for Catherine's growing influence inside the monarchy. As he concluded his remarks, his voice softened. The future rests in steady hands. That single line flooded social media within minutes. Hashtags like "Thank you, Duke of Kent" and hashtag "Future Queen Catherine" began trending worldwide. But behind the emotional farewell, there was something else, something unsaid. Because as royal insiders began to whisper, this announcement might have been approved by King Charles himself. And that's where things start to get very interesting. For decades, the Duke of Kent moved through the corridors of power
almost invisibly, rarely in headlines, yet ever present in moments that shaped royal history. While others basked in public attention, he served in silence, a steady hand supporting 3 generations of monarchs. From standing beside Queen Elizabeth II at coronations and memorials, to quietly mentoring young royals during the most turbulent years, his devotion was absolute. He represented Britain at hundreds of events, often without cameras or applause, the kind of quiet service the monarchy was built upon. But what many never realized is that behind that polished composure was a man carrying deep personal loss. He lost his father in a tragic plane crash when he was just 7. From that moment, duty became his inheritance, and emotion became a private burden. Through royal divorces, public scandals, and shifting public opinion, the Duke never wavered. He remained loyal, calm, and disciplined, the kind of figure Charles grew up admiring and Catherine deeply respects. Insiders say he saw in Catherine something familiar, that same sense of silent strength, the ability to endure criticism without complaint, and to carry duty not as a crown, but as a calling. That's why his recent words felt so profound. They weren't just praise, they were recognition, a message from a man who knew the cost of loyalty better than anyone else. But as his quiet legacy comes to a close, one question lingers among royal watchers. Did the Duke choose Catherine as his symbolic successor, or was this gesture part of a deeper royal plan quietly unfolding behind palace walls? Before the medals, titles, and royal salutes, the Duke of Kent was just a boy, a child who lost his father far too soon. In 1942, his father, the Prince George, the dashing Duke of Kent, died in a mysterious plane crash during World War II. The boy was only 7. That single moment shaped everything. It turned innocence into responsibility overnight. While other children learned to play, the young Duke learned to bow. He grew up watching the crown not as a symbol of privilege, but as a reminder of sacrifice, of what duty can take away. Those who knew him say he rarely spoke of his father's death. Instead, he let service become his language. Years in the army, decades of royal duty, and a lifetime spent ensuring the family's honor remained intact. That quiet grief, refined into discipline, is what made him the man we saw for so many decades. Calm, restrained, and endlessly loyal. But that same loss also gave him a deep empathy for others who carried invisible burdens. And that's what drew him towards Princess Catherine. Behind her calm smile, he recognized that same endurance, the quiet kind that doesn't ask for sympathy, only understanding. Sources close to the palace say his admiration for her grew in recent years, especially as she faced intense scrutiny and health battles while maintaining dignity. For him, Catherine represented not just the future of the monarchy, but the continuation of the values that defined his entire life. So when he stood before the cameras for the last time, his farewell wasn't only to the public, it was to the pain he had carried since childhood. And in passing that symbolic torch to Catherine, it was as if he was finally setting it down. But what no one expected was how King Charles himself would quietly respond. When the Duke of Kent mentioned Princess Catherine in his farewell, it wasn't a casual nod. It was deliberate and deeply meaningful. Among all the working royals, why her? Why not Prince Edward, Princess Anne, or even the king's own siblings? The answer lies in what Catherine has quietly become, the emotional anchor of the modern monarchy. While others engage in politics, popularity, or palace positioning, Catherine has mastered something far rarer: restraint. She represents the same brand of quiet dignity the Duke himself lived by. Insiders say he saw her not just as the future queen, but as a reflection of what the monarchy once was: a symbol of service without spectacle. Behind closed doors, he admired her ability to balance motherhood, public duty, and constant media pressure without losing grace. And it wasn't lost on King Charles either. Reports suggest the king personally approved the Duke's wording in that farewell statement, allowing Catherine's name to appear in such a symbolic moment. That subtle gesture